cornerbacks. There's no obvious next generational talent like we thought with Sauce and Stingley last year. So what is your number one or the rankings?
I think this cornerback class is one that is filled to the brim with a lot of top-end talent. Devon Witherspoon, who may be viewed as a little undersized, seems to be the tenacity and ball physicality. I have Christian Gonzalez as my cornerback one. I think 6'1", 200-pound frame, 4.38 speed, great arms with 32 inches, and he has the athleticism and fluidity and great technique that I think makes it work from a snap-to-snap basis where you're relying on him in open space on the outside and you're going to be able to shut down a lot of receivers. He got away with his athleticism a bit at times trying to bait throws, and I think in the NFL maybe that could come back to bite him a little bit of refinement is going to be needed for him, but ultimately this is someone that was playing at Colorado, moving around the field, playing outside cornerback, slot cornerback, strong safety, and making it work with some great flashes of play. Went to Oregon, continued to build on his resume, continued to improve his stock, and now is one of the top cornerbacks in this class. Devon Witherspoon is my cornerback 4. It feels disrespectful to have him at 4, but it's because the top end of this class is just filled with so many talented options. One guy that I think is absolutely slept on is Cam Smith of South Carolina. He was someone that has 6'1", 180-pound frame, which is a bit light, so you need to add some muscle without losing some athleticism at the position, but he's someone that turned in a great combine, was viewed as one of the higher instinctive cornerbacks in this class. I think the play intelligence is off the chart.
We are talking to the Gameday NFL draft analyst, Michael Rochman. Philadelphia, last year they traded up. They got A.J. Brown, absolutely helped him throughout the season. One of the most underrated wide receivers in the league over the last couple of years, especially what he did for Tennessee. Look how bad Tennessee's offense was this year without him. Jalen Carter falls to them with Mr. Big Daddy Davis over there.
Based on Howie Roseman's draft history, he loves to invest in the trenches. Defensive end, defensive tackle, getting that high-end developmental pick that can be an edge rushing rotational piece where the Eagles, when they won the Super Bowl back a few years, they had a healthy rotation of pass rushers, and you saw them try to replicate that this year by trading for Robert Quinn, trying to add some pieces, and the Dominican suit to the defensive line on the interior. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for the production standpoint. Quinn didn't end up turning in a sack during his time with the Eagles, but it's very clear that Howie Roseman values having depth and a healthy rotation on the defensive end spot to be able to keep your pass rushers fresh. For a guy like Howie Roseman, where you have a defensive line that is aging kind of day by day, Brandon Graham probably only has a year or two more left of prime play where he's contributing at a high level. You have guys on this defensive line like Fletcher Cox that are getting older. You need to add young pieces to where long-term, 2-3 years down the line, you're still going to have high-level play.
I would get an offensive lineman. If you know that Johnson is probably on his way out, he can't stay healthy. Kelsey could be gone in a year. I would start rebuilding that offensive line and solidify your offensive line for many, many years to come for Jalen Hurts, who's a mobile quarterback.
For the offensive guard position, there are a lot of later round picks. I think there's options later on to where you can still invest in the trenches on the offensive side and get your day one starter while adding those pieces that could have long-term benefits and higher upside for the defensive end spot.
Receivers, there's no obvious number one. Like, a lot of them are good, but they have their one flaw. Addison's undersized. Quentin Johnson with the drops. Jackson Smith-Njigga, I think this is the most talented, but he's injury prone. So where do you stand on these wide receivers?
There's a lot of value in these receivers, but I think at the same time, there's maybe a little bit of limit on the upside that they offer, and that's what kind of holds back a lot of these teams from investing the draft capital of an early pick in these guys. But I think there's been a little bit of overcorrection in the regard to how these wide receivers have been addressed by the media. These still are very talented wideouts that are going to contribute in the NFL. But the way these people talk about these guys, it sounds like they're just UDFAs that are just kind of the best of a dumpster fire of a position right now.
They're also saying this is a very strong tight end draft, one of the best we've seen in the last 10 years. You can get a top-end tight end that could be elite once they figure things out. They're saying like there's 13 tight ends in this draft that could be really, really good.
And there were a lot of good ones last year, too.
That's a position now that has been dominant in the NFL ever since the Patriots with Hernandez and Gronkowski when they drafted those guys. And now Bill O'Brien's back, and Gesicki they got in the offseason. I like Gesicki if he could stay healthy, but I think he's going to flourish under Bill O'Brien's offense.
I like the group for the Patriots for sure, but both are free agents in the offseason, and Bill Belichick kind of loves to do that draft in advance strategy. A guy like Darnell Washington who has that blocking acumen to kind of almost play as a sixth lineman for a team, and then if you can unlock that receiving ability, which I think he showed a lot of upside for and has a very nice athletic profile that he showed at the combine, to where if he's even 50% of the receiver that Gronk is, you're probably getting a high-level tight end in this league. This is a tight end position that very deep class, but the NFL as a whole probably a little bit underwhelming at the tight end spot. So a lot of these guys come in and maybe make an impact to where they're moving up those ranks and strengthening the league position as a whole.
There's really only 4 tight ends in this league that I would say are scary and elite, and it's probably the hardest position to defend when they're on the field, because if they're fast and they're big and they have good hands, how are you going to stop them? Linebackers can't keep up with them. Safeties aren't as big as them. They're hanging on them. How many times have we seen 2 safeties hang on Gronkowski and he pulls them all the way 5, 6, 7, 8 yards? So it's the hardest position to defend if you have a great speedy guy